report on what is the fact.
It's already in the public consciousness. There's a poll recently saying 62% of the people in the country want Gary Johnson and Bill Weld in the debates. 76% say yes, we want third parties in the debates. That one didn't name us, but it's a big majority. So people are thinking about that. There's a legal point here too. Pardon the lawyer, but the commission is a tax-exempt 501c3. So by their charter, they have to be nonpartisan, not bipartisan. And if they came out and said, well, we're favoring the R's and the D's at the expense of other parties, which of course they are, and have made very few bones saying so since their creation, that's a violation of their tax-exempt status because it's not nonpartisan. So that may be a pressure point. But I tend to agree with you, process story don't sell.
So you somehow have to get the American people, the majority of whom want you in, to raise a little bit of hell.
Well, we're going to make a certain amount of noise.
We are the only third-party candidates on the ballot in all 50 states. I think you've probably heard me say that now about 4 or 5 times.
Questions, maybe for those who haven't asked questions yet.
Seattle's currently grappling with a homelessness crisis. What do you see as the federal government's role in addressing that issue?
You know, the federal government's role it really is a state's role. It's a state's role. It's community's role. Real libertarian solutions when it comes to homelessness. I think it's it's being able to design and build affordable housing without regard to regulations and rules that add so much to cost and really aren't so much about health and safety, but zoning. And if the city of Seattle were to embark on an affordable housing model project, they could dedicate, I'm sure they got 20 acres somewhere that if you brought together architects and engineers could design 600 square foot housing units, the IKEA 600 square feet, bed, place to cook, a commode, a shower, a desk. That would be some really affordable housing.
A few more questions and we'll go to one-on-ones.
The TPP has come up a lot with you guys. Do you have any further clarification on what that whole process would be and for you and your administration, how you would deal with it?
Well, just that we do believe it advances free trade and that ultimately that's more jobs for U.S. citizens, and particularly that's Washington State, right? Washington State has more export than any other state in the country.
It's also a geopolitical 10 strike for the United States because it gives us a treaty relationship with 11 Pacific-facing countries that do not include China. So to the extent that we're pivoting to Asia and concerned with our position there, this is more than the camel's nose under the tent. This is the camel walking right into the tent, and it's without saying anything negative about China, it certainly improves our prospects vis-a-vis China in that sphere of influence. That's in addition to the trade benefits.
Do you think there's any issues, though, with the court system that's going to be instituted with undermining the sovereignty and the political structures of other nations, other countries that are involved?
It comes up, but these are areas right now that have no dispute resolution. That's why these mechanisms have been put in place. If these turn out to be result in egregious decisions, sure, certainly that's something to be taken into account. But I think it ultimately protects U.S. property rights, intellectual property.
The issue I hear most often about from the union side is that the labor laws in Vietnam are intolerable. Give me a break.
Get back to what my colleague was talking about. I'm going to give you a human example. I have breakfast Saturday mornings up on Whidbey Island at a restaurant called the Clover Patch. The Clover Patch's owner, prior to Obamacare, was not able to afford insurance for his employees. The waitress who regularly serves me was in an automobile accident. which bankrupted her. She is now under Obamacare and scared like the dickens of losing what she has been able to get. I'm interested, if you were elected, what type of options that she would have if Obamacare is substantially modified.
Well, I think, first of all, I think an issue that Obamacare should have addressed, or when all this health care was brought up and a pre-existing condition, yes, a leading cause of bankruptcy is catastrophic injury or illness. I think those issues should be addressed and could have been addressed, but it didn't have to go as overboard as it did. And speaking for me specifically, my insurance premiums have quadrupled. I don't call them insurance premiums. I agree with Chief Justice Roberts that it's a tax. My insurance tax has quadrupled, and I haven't been to see a doctor. I saw a doctor a couple of days ago because of, up until 2 days ago, it'd been 2.5 years, 2 days ago, because of all the interest now over presidential health, and I need to actually post a physical.
So you're a world-class athlete and you saw a doctor? I'm proud of you. So let me say one other sort of systemic thing. One thing that's been a casualty of the poisonous atmosphere in Washington, where the two sides hate each other, is what used to happen, and I've been around Congress for a long time. I worked in the House, I worked in the Senate, I spent a lot of time with them at the request of Gingrich and Dole when the Republicans came in the mid-90s. I was a city governor. And it used to be the case that when Congress passed a great big bill, then they'd wait a couple of years and they'd come back in 2 years or 3 years and tinker with it. And they say, what do we got to do to make this thing work better? Well, the Republicans have been unwilling to do that with Obamacare, because they say, we're going to repeal this sucker. And, you know, I don't know if the Dems wanted to go that route, but it was impossible. So that's a casualty of the poisonous atmosphere. My guess is that if we got in to the White House, we would be less threatening to Congress than either of the two polar parties, because we wouldn't be seen as automatically the enemy. And we'd hire a lot of Democrats, we'd hire a lot of Republicans who are libertarian leaning, but we wouldn't be seen as the enemy. And if we said, as I was suggesting about Obamacare, here are 5 things we might want to do, and we'd make up a couple that would appeal to the Dems in addition to 3 I mentioned that appeal to the Rs, and they say, is this good or bad for Obamacare? We could legitimately say, we're not so sure. Why don't you tell us? Then they'd have to go read the goddamn thing.
Health question. Did you climb Mount Everest from the Tibet side or the Nepal side?
The Nepal side.
South Call?
Mm-hmm.
All right, last question. Last question, somebody new? Anybody new?
I got you.
Anybody new? All right, you'll get the last one.
Do you think, should there be a federal minimum wage?
No, I don't think so. It is minimum wage. That's the title, minimum wage. And I think I think a lot of kids, a lot of young people might have opportunity that currently, if you raise the minimum wage, wouldn't have that opportunity.
Great, thanks so much. So we'll go to one-on-one.